Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Noah, God gives for the first time permission to eat meat. Quote, every creature that lives shall be yours to eat. As with the green grasses, I give you all these. There is a restriction. Meat must not come from a living animal. Quote, you must not, however, eat flesh with its lifeblood in it, unquote. Eating animals was not allowed before. God told Adam and Eve, quote, behold, I have given you every herb yielding seeds which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree that has seed yielding fruit. To you it shall be for food. Even the animals were vegetarian in the Garden of Eden. Quote, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, where there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so, unquote. On Noah's Ark, predators lived in peace with herbivores, since they all survived the flood. Noah could not have fed them meat. There is early evidence of a desire for meat. In the deserts after the Exodus, the people were not satisfied with manna. They wanted meat. God reluctantly gives it to them and loses it. Quote, the Israelites wept and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish that we used to eat free in Egypt. Now our gullets are shriveled. There is nothing at all, nothing but this manna to look to. The Lord was very angry, and Moses was distressed. God told him, say to the people, tomorrow you shall eat meat, for you have kept whining before the Lord. The Lord will give you meat and you shall eat. You shall eat meat, not 1 day, not 2, not even 5 days or 10 or 20, but a whole month until it comes out of your nostrils and it nauseates you, unquote. The sages used to say, En simcha ella bebasar veyayin. There is no rejoicing except with meat and wine. Maimonides states, on the holidays, a person is obligated to be happy and in good spirits. Children should be given roasted seeds, nuts, and sweets. One should buy women pretty clothes and jewelry according to one's means. Men should eat meat and drink wine, for there is no rejoicing without meat and wine, unquote. However, some rabbis in the Talmud argued that the above quotes from Genesis did not technically prohibit meat to Adam. Why did God allow eating meat? It's all the stranger because there was only one couple from each species right after the flood. There was a need to preserve them, at least for a while. There are many possible reasons. First, the desire, as we mentioned, people wanted meat. Second, the need to survive. Abravanel notes that after the flood, there were no plants left for the survivors to eat, so they had to eat meat. Once allowed, the leniency became permanent. Third, it's a reward to humans for rescuing the animals. Nachmanides writes, quote, when all flesh became corrupt and God decreed they would die in floods, Noah saved some animals for the preservation of the species. Therefore, God gave man permission to slaughter and eat animals, unquote. This means that people acquired greater rights over animals by virtue of having rescued them from annihilation, kept them alive, and having extracted a guarantee from God that never again would life on earth be destroyed. Fourth, there was a need for violence. The Torah says that before the flood, the earth was, quote, filled with violence, unquote, and God had to destroy it and restart it. God concluded that people needed violence, and so he lowered his standards. He allowed people to kill animals, so hopefully they would not kill human beings created in God's image. But the killing must have a practical, useful purpose: food, worship, use of skin and bones, etc. But later, God's law of kashrut greatly limited people's permission to eat meat. Only certain animals could be eaten, and only if they were properly slaughtered. Also prohibited were bloods, hard fats, carrion, and mixing meat with dairy products. In particular, animals that eat other animals may not be eaten. The Kli Yakar from 16th century Prague said, quote, what was the necessity for the entire procedure of ritual slaughter? For the sake of self-discipline. it is far more appropriate for man not to eat meat. Perhaps because of the bother and annoyance of the whole procedure, he will be restrained from such a strong and uncontrollable desire for meat. Unquote. So, eating meat was another concession to human frailties to get the Jews to accept the Torah until such time as they will no longer want to do it, as happened with slavery, polygamy, death penalty, sacrifices, captive women, sota, and other practices currently on hold. Fifth, asserting the superiority of man over beasts. Rabbi Joseph Albo from 15th century Spain noted that before the floods, people believed humans and animals were on the same level. Therefore, they believed that they too were not responsible for their actions. After the floods, allowing people to eat meat made them realize they were on a higher level than animals and had to be more responsible than animals. He also wrote that Cain offered God grain, while Abel offered God animals, because Cain believed animals were equal to humans, and so he had no right to kill them for offering. When he saw that God accepted Abel's animals, he concluded he could also kill Abel, which he did. Sixth, attaining a higher spirituality. Nachmanides wrote that animals were indeed not far from humans before the floods. Quote, living creatures possess moving souls that have some stature. They resemble human, intelligent souls, and they can affect their own welfare, seek their food, and flee from pain and death. As it says in Ecclesiastes, who knows whether the spirit of man really goes upwards and the spirit of the beast really goes downward to the earth, unquote. Akedat Yitzhak from 15th century Spain noted that the post-flood humanity was more spiritual than the old humanity, which increased its distance from animals. Higher life forms are elevated when they eat lower life forms. The Talmud says that only scholars should eat meat. Quote, it was taught in a Baraita that Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi said, anyone who engages in Torah study is permitted to eat the meat of animals and fowl. And anyone who does not engage in Torah study is prohibited to eat the meat of animals or fowl, unquote. So eating meat is only appropriate when it's expected to result in an elevation. But one may ask, could this elevation not have occurred before the floods? What are the arguments against vegetarianism? Well, first, God said we may eat meat. The three patriarchs had no qualms about eating meat. The Torah tells us that Abraham fed these three guests meat. The sages tell us that he even slaughtered 3 calves in their honor, when one would have been enough. Isaac asked Esau to go hunt and bring him meat before giving him his blessing. His wife Rebekah promptly cooked 2 kids. Isaac slaughtered animals to make a feast for his friends. Joseph served meat to his brothers. One could ask, why did they not have qualms? Second, eating meat was the norm in the time of the Talmud. Tractate Ketubot said that vowing not to eat meat is a form of self-affliction. Tractate Megillah tells us that the first recorded case of Mishloach Manot, the gift of food given on Purim, was a gift of meat. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi sent Rabbi Oshaya wine and a leg of calf. Tractate Kiddushin advises that a good way to honor your parents is to buy them pheasant meat. One could ask again, why was it the norm? Third, the human anatomy suggests an omnivorous diet. However, could it not have evolved from an herbivore anatomy? Fourth, it may bring us back to the notion that animals are equivalent to human beings. Are plants next in line after we have learned to manufacture food from its constituent molecules? The Arizal, the 16th century mystic, asks whether we even have the right to eat plants. Is your blood redder than the purposeful existence of a tomato? He asks. It is not. Swallowing the meaningful life of any of God's living creations, even a vegetable, is not fair. Does that mean we should eat only things that die of their own accord, or dead fruit that fall off trees? But the Torah does not allow us to eat carrion. Plants have no brain or nervous system. Are they sentient? Do they feel pain or experience anything? Now, what are the arguments in favor of vegetarianism? First, God made all creatures vegetarian in Genesis and declared the world very good. So vegetarianism must be the ideal. Second, God did not mandate eating meat. Exceptions are in connection with sacrifices and the Paschal lamb. They required the temple, which we don't have today. Note that sacrifices forced people to watch with their own eyes the slaughter of the animals and the preparation of the meat. Was that intended to turn them off? Third, when God promises abundant food in the promised land, he mentions only plants, not meat. He talks about planting, not slaughtering. Quote, "The Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and springs and fountains issuing from valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines, fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land where you will eat bread without scarceness, where you will lack nothing. I will give you the rain for your land in its due season, the early rain and the late rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil." Fourth, blessings before eating food are recited only before eating plants, not meat. We say motzi over bread, hagafen over wine, mizanot over grains, ha'etz over fruit, and ha'adama over vegetables. All other foods, including meat, get only shehakol, a general blessing. This implies a preference for plants as food. Fifth, the Birkat HaMazon, the blessing after meals, is recited only if the meal includes bread, at least an olive-sized piece, a kezayit. If it includes anything else, such as meat, a much shorter blessing is recited, Borei Nefashot. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of numerous living beings and their needs, for all the things you have created with which to sustain the soul of every living being. Blessed is he who is the life of the worlds. Unquote. Sixth, the sages say that eating meat should be an exception, not a habit. The Talmud says, quote, "The sages taught in the Baraita that when the Torah says, when the Lord expands your boundary and you have the urge to eat meat, you may eat whenever you wish. Eat meat whenever you wish. It means that a person should consume meat only when he has a craving for it. One should not accustom his children to eat meat and drink wine." The Midrash adds, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, "The Torah teaches us derech eretz, proper behavior. One should eat flesh only out of desire." Seventh, you are what you eat. Rabbi Albo said that killing animals is a cruel and furious act, which makes one absorb these bad traits, coarsens the heart, and deadens its spiritual sensitivity. Nachmanides writes that the birds and mammals forbidden by the Torah are predators, while the kosher animals are not. We are commanded not to eat those animals that have a cruel nature, so that we should not absorb these qualities into ourselves. In Luriani Kabbalah, living things lower on the food chain are at a higher level and therefore propel us higher. Eighth, a vegetarian diet may prolong life. Before the flood, people lived long. Adam lived 930 years, Seth 912, Enosh 905, Kenan 910, and Methuselah 969. After the floods, the lifespans were much shorter. Abraham lived 175 years, Sarah 127, Joseph 110, and Moses 120. Was this the result of a vegetarian diet? Maimonides lightly suggests it. Quote, "About the length of a man's life in those days before the floods, I say that only the persons named lived so long, while other people enjoyed the ordinary length of life. The men named were exceptions, either in consequence of different causes, such as their food or mode of living, or by way of miracles, which admits of no analogy." Unquote. Many studies do show that the vegetarian diet prolongs life, but no more than a few years. Also, one may wonder whether the diet is really the cause of the longevity. Ninth, if fewer plant-eating animals were raised for slaughter, there would be a lot more plants available to feed the starving poor. 10th, respect for the dignity of the animals is paramount in Judaism. Indeed, one must not cause them pain. One must not let them suffer or overburden them, even if they belong to an enemy. One must not eat before they are fed. One must not make them work on Shabbat. One must not harness two species together, which is unfair to the weaker one. One must not hunt them for sport. One must not take young birds before sending away the mother birds. One must not kill a cow or her calf on the same day, and her calf on the same day. One must not eat any part of them while they're still alive, etc. It is further claimed that Shechita does not inflict pain on the animals. This story in the Talmud teaches compassion to animals. The great Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi suffered of kidney stones and scurvy for 13 years. His sufferings came to him through a certain incident. A calf was being taken to the slaughter. It broke away, hid his head under the rabbi's skirts, and wailed in terror. He said to the calf, "Go, you were created for this." Thereupon they said in heaven, "Since he has no pity, let us bring suffering upon him." Unquote. 11th, eating meat is a luxury. People can survive on a vegetarian diet. Meat substitutes are being increasingly created, such as the Impossible Burger. 12th, people have free will. They can choose whether to harm, kill, or inflict pain on man or beast. Carnivorous animals can't. One can ask, did animals retaliate to God's allowance of meat, with some of them becoming carnivores? Finally, the prophecy of Isaiah implies that vegetarianism is the future of humankind. Quote, "And the wolf shall live with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den." Unquote. Rav Kook, a strong advocate of vegetarianism, said flatly that in the days of the Messiah, we will no longer eat meat. What do we conclude? Vegetarianism is allowed in Judaism as a matter of personal preference. Few authorities encourage it, though, and many reserve it for a future time only. There are arguments for and against it. The arguments that we have no moral right to kill animals is not deemed Jewishly acceptable. Some wonder, is vegetarianism part of the Jewish mission of Tikkun Olam, to repair the world? Shabbat Shalom.